Hello and welcome to Notice Tonight, the show that decodes the region. I am Wasbir Hussain. The recent attack on the security forces by the NSCN-K near Mon in Nagaland that led to the death of 3 soldiers has cast doubts on the general perception that the security situation in the Naga areas has improved drastically in view of the peace talks. The attack by the NSCN-K has come at a time when government leaders are saying that the talks between the NSCN-IM and the authorities have reached an advanced stage and that a peace accord is expected soon. But the question now arises is whether the Mon attack by the NSCN-IM is an indication of things to come in the days ahead. Apart from the NSCN-IM, 6 other Naga rebel groups under the banner of the Naga National Political Group or NNPG are engaged in the peace talks. But 2 major groups, the NSCN-K and the Naga National Council Adino group, are not part of the dialogue process. Therefore, the question arises whether lasting peace in Naga areas is really possible without such major groups being left out of the peace process. But again, can the government wait indefinitely for these groups to come on board, or can the government accept all their preconditions? To discuss the issue, I am joined from Kohima by well-known writer Mr. Kaka Iralu, who is also the Foreign Affairs head of the Naga National Council Adino Group. Also in Kohima, I have Mr. Teza Theri, the Mediation Committee Secretary of the Naga Tribes Council. I have Mr. Ilu Nadang, Assembly Secretary of the Naga Hoho, and Mr. David Sangtam, President, Eastern Nagaland People's Union, Kohima. Besides, I am joined from Shillong by Professor Prosenjit Biswas, who teaches philosophy at the Northeastern Hill University and a commentator on affairs concerning the region. And at our studios in Guwahati, I have Mr. Sunil Nath, writer and former publicity chief of the ULFA, and Mr. Arunav Goswami, Assistant Director at the Center for Development and Peace Studies, a leading research think tank. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no ladies, gentlemen, welcome to this program. I'll go straight to Mr. Kaka Iralu in Kohima. This is a rare television appearance for Mr. Kaka Iralu, well-known writer and the Foreign Affairs head of the Naga National Council Adino Group, which incidentally is one of the parent Naga insurgent or Naga rebel groups that was founded by the legendary Angami Japu Fizo. Mr. Kaka Iralu, welcome to Notice Tonight. You have been writing on the Naga issue for the past more than 2 decades. You are the Foreign Affairs head of the NNC Adino that is not part of the peace process. Now, how do you look at the Naga issue today? Are you hopeful of peace returning to the Naga areas? Mr. Kaka Iralu.
Presently, the peace talks are not, in my opinion, addressing the issue of the conflict. In fact, all the former peace talks have also not addressed the issue. The issue is one of how, as mentioned by Jawaharlal Nehru himself, how the tribal territories that are comprised of so many stretches of kilometers disappeared into India and Burma after 1947. The issue is how a Mongolian nation that has been inhabiting their forefathers' lands for over 2,000 years in recorded history have metamorphosed into the Indian nation and the Burmese nation. So these issues, invasion and the conflict that developed from it, has not been addressed. So it's going about in a roundabout manner, but I do not foresee any solution in the immediate future.
Okay, Mr. Kakairalu, the government of India has been negotiating for 21 years now. Everyone felt all groups should be involved, and therefore 6 groups came together under the banner of the NNPG, and they are now part of the peace process. But 2 important groups, the NSCN-K and your group, the NNC Adino, continues to remain outside the peace process.
The government of India presently seems to be desperately trying to bypass the Naga mandated federal government of Nagaland and the political institution called the Naga National Council, NNC. But unless this group is addressed, because we have the historical mandate, it was under the auspices of the NNC that all the important political events were carried out and all the memorandums were submitted. So without the root and the stem of the Naga tree, we feel that no solution can come about.
Right. Let me go to Mr. Teza Theri. Mr. Teza Theri is the mediation secretary of the Naga Tribes Council. Mr. Teza Theri, we have been told that the Naga peace process is at an advanced stage and that an accord is likely to be signed soon. But 2 questions to you, Mr. Teza Theri. One, 2 important groups are outside the peace process, as I said, NSCN-K and the NNC Adino, and the recent attack on the security forces by the NSCN-K. Are you a worried man today?
Yeah. Government of India have engaged with NSCN-K in ceasefire in 2001. Then 14 years of ceasefire without any meaningful engagement.
Yeah.
That has led to the NSCN-K rebels and take offensive action against Indian Army. That is one thing which worries us. We would like to see both NNC and NNCN-K to join the peace process.
Right.
So that the peace process will become inclusive of all. Unless it is inclusive, we are afraid that post-accord may also not be very conducive for us.
Now Mr. Terry, the attack by the NSCN-K near Mon, do you think that is an indication of the things to come, and therefore it is extremely important to also have the NSCN-K as part of the peace process?
Yeah, when the NSCN-K took offensive action against Indian Army, killing 18 Army Jawans in June 2015, the government of India declared NSCN-K and all its front and organizations front as terrorist organization under Unlawful Activities Prevention Act.
Right. Right.
And the policy of the government of India is not to talk to terrorist group. And unless government of India sincerely take NSCN-K on board, sincerely invite them, I think the situation as of today, we see that NSCN-K must be desperate.
Right.
And it is not good.
Let me go quickly to Mr. Elu Nadang. Mr. Elu Nadang is a senior leader of the Naga Hoho. He is the assembly secretary of the Naga Hoho. Mr. Elu Nadang, more or less the same question to you. Are you a worried man today because the 2 of the important groups are not part of the peace process, and the attack in Mon, near Mon, do you think that is an indication of things to come, and therefore it is all the more important for the government of India to even now try to have them on board?
Well, The attack on the Assam Rifles in Mon, it is rather a very unfortunate incident. We regret for that.
Yeah.
But the government of India must also look back what has happened between the NSNK leadership and the government of India. As Naga people, we want peace, and we have been working for peace in the society. But at the same time, when we look at the sincerity of the government of India, I think even the NSNK leadership have their own reasons to abrogate the ceasefire. Therefore, the government of India must rethink seriously and see and look for a means for a peaceful atmosphere.
Okay, fair enough. We'll elaborate on this later. Let me quickly go to Mr. David Sangtam for a different perspective. Mr. David Sangtam is the president of the Eastern Nagaland People's Union, Kohima, ENPO. Mr. David Sangtam, do you have any appeal to make to the various Naga underground groups at this stage when we are told that the peace process is actually at an advanced stage? Mr. David Sangtam.
Yes, definitely we would like to appeal to all the factions, either they are in the ceasefire agreement with the government of India, even if they are not also, we appeal to all the factions to kindly stop all sort of killings within ENPO area in particular and overall in the whole Nagaland state also, definitely.
Okay, I'll come back to you, David. I'll come back to you. Let me also go to Shillong before I come back to my panelists in the studio for their opening remarks. I have Mr. Prasenjit Biswas, teaches philosophy at Nehu, takes a close look at the situation in the northeastern region. Prasenjit, government leaders have been saying that the Naga peace talks have reached an advanced stage, as I have been asking my other panelists. In view of this, how do you see the latest attack near Mon by the NSCNK? Dr. Prasenjit Biswas.
Yes, and actually the real issue is to look into the interlinkages between various insurgent groups. As you know, there is a United Liberation Front of West Southeast Asia at this moment operating from Myanmar, and they are actually on the ground control, and they are having this territorial control on the large part of eastern Nagaland as well as of southwestern Arunachal Pradesh. Therefore, unless this territorial issue of controlling certain territories and from where the insurgent groups are operating, unless that is contained, it is not possible to really move forward by signing an agreement between NSC and IM and Government of India. That is the real issue, military and political issue.
Right. Hold on your thoughts, Dr. Prasenjit Biswas. Hold on with your thoughts. Sunil Nath, you had seen both sides of the coin. You were the publicity chief of the ULFA. You were one of the top leaders or top strategists right in the early stages of the ULFA movement. My question to you, you have heard the panelists from Nagaland as well as Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, an observer. Now, my question to you, Mr. Sunil Nath, is this. Everybody seems to say that NSCNK and the NNC Adinov group also must be brought on board the peace process for lasting peace. Now, it should not be very difficult for the government of India to get the NSCNK, isn't it? Because they were already part of the peace process until they abrogated the ceasefire in 2015.
Well, like my friend from Nagaland pointed out,
Right.
actually NSCNK went into a ceasefire, but came out of it after 14 years, nothing happened. That is what, when you take someone on board, you have to treat them with sincere respect, and the process has to go ahead. If just by bringing into ceasefire a group, the government of India hopes that it will wither away, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. That is why when we actually want all the stakeholders on board, all the stakeholders have to be addressed with sincerity, and their sensitivity has to be respected.
Right. Absolutely. Now, Arnav, NSCNK, everybody, all the panelists are saying that it's extremely important to bring the NSCNK as part of the peace process. Now, NSCN-K has tremendous strike potential, isn't it? Today, the NSCN-IM has been in a peace mode for more than 20 years. Therefore, the most potent Naga rebel group at this point perhaps is the NSCN-K. And we don't know what in the last, since the abrogating the truce in 2014, I think it's 2015. 2015, in the last 3 years, who knows? They must have regrouped, they must have purchased sophisticated military hardware, we don't know. So, this is a group that cannot be taken lightly. What do you think?
Yes, because if you see, when they had abrogated the ceasefire in 2015, since then, till the last ambush in June, they have attacked at least 10 times on the security forces. And in these 10 attacks, at least 40 security force personnel has been killed. And if you look at the weapons they have used in these particular attacks, they have used RPGs, mortars, grenades, M16 rifles, AK series rifles. So, this is an indication that their coffers are full of arms and ammunition. And according to intelligence reports, there are around 1500 cadres of NSCN-K, of which 700 is in Myanmar, rest are in Nagaland, Manipur and Arunachal Pradesh.
Okay. Oh, this is a huge arsenal they have and a huge strength. I'll go to my panelists in Kohima. I will go to Mr. Tezathere and Ilu Nadang. But before that, quickly once again, Mr. Kakairalu, you have heard the panelists perhaps. Now, we know about the NSCN-K attack on, on the security forces a few days ago. But do you think this is an indication of things to come after a peace accord is signed? Suppose tomorrow the peace accord is signed and NSCN-K is not part of the peace process, they might continue to demonstrate their strike potential. Mr. Kakairalu.
My personal assessment is that the NSCN-K will continue the struggle. We cannot blame them for the actions that they conducted recently.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we mourn the Indian soldiers who died. We mourn the Naga territorial army personnel that were killed. This war should never have been fought in the first place.
Right.
But it has continued raging on, and the government is not addressing or inviting or handing out any feelers for the NNC Adino group to come and join the discussion. So the struggle will continue from the K side, I believe.
Right. It's a very important point you are making, Mr. Kakairalu. You are saying that the government has not invited the NNC Adino. Now, my question to you, Mr. Kakairalu, if the government of India invites you or your group, NNC Adino, for talks, will you be willing to join the peace process?
I cannot speak on behalf of the government. In my own individual capacity, we will have to discuss the proposal together and say a yes or a no. But if we are invited, I'm sure we will be willing to talk with the government of India.
Mr. Tezathere, you had made this point earlier that, Mr. Tezathere, you have made this point that, the government should invite both the NSCN-K and the NNC Adino as well. Now that 7 leading militant groups are part of the peace process, the 2 very important groups, NSCN-K and Adino. Now you have heard Mr. Kakairalu saying that government of India has not invited them, but he said that if the government of India invites, they will be willing to join the peace process. I think it's a very, very positive indication. Mr. Therry.
Yeah, very true. It's a very positive indication. NSCN-K also in their statement, they said that they are not adverse to peace process.
Right.
And now Mr. Kaka is also saying the same thing. If they are willing to go for negotiation, what is holding the government of India back from inviting them? But at the same time, the peace process, the negotiation which is ongoing, should continue.
Absolutely. Very important point raised by Mr. Tezathere there. If the organization is willing to come for talks, what is it that is holding the government of India? Why is the government of India not inviting them? We don't know. Mr. Ilu Nadang, what do you think? What is your thoughts?
Yes, the government of India must extend invitation to all the groups without any conditions.
Yeah.
But when we look at the NSNK groups, now the government of India have announced bounty on NSNK leadership. How can they come forward for peace? How can they come forward for a talk when they are being taken with wanted? In that situation, the government of India must create a situation, provide an atmosphere where the NSNK leadership can freely come over and have a peace talk process with the government of India.
Very important point. At a time when the government of India is announcing bounty, how can they come? So government of India needs to revise perhaps its policy very quickly. I have to go for a break. After coming back, I'll ask my panelists in the studio. But very quickly, Mr. David Sangtam, how do you look at the NSNK attack in Mon? Is it an indication of things to follow in the coming days? Because all of our panelists are saying that coming of NSCNK into the peace process is very important. Mr. David Sangtam.
I'm not sure about what will be the outcome in the long run, but I'm very clear that our Eastern Nagaland People's Organization ENPO have taken a resolution, passed a resolution in the year 2007 on 18th of December, appealing to all the factions to stop killings among factions
was not that.
and also to stop
my question was
intimidation,
not that.
harassment.
Mr. David Sangtam, hold on to your thoughts. I'll come back to you. We'll go for a short break. Stay on. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Mr. Sunil Nath, is it possible, everyone is now saying basically that the attack in Mon is unfortunate, that the Naga struggle may continue and SNK may continue with their actions to prove their strength. Now, do you think there is still time for the government of India to involve these two groups into the negotiation process? One, NSCNIM is already in the process, 6 other groups under the banner of NLPGP are joined later. Now, 2 important groups are outside. Do you think there is still time left?
I definitely do. I feel that even in today's show, my friends from Nagaland, what they have indicated is that given a proper invitation, a sincere invitation, both are ready to come abroad, both are ready to talk it out.
Yeah.
And as a whole, all the stakeholders of Nagaland seems to be sincerely bent on bringing in peace to Nagaland and for the Naga people. Now it is up to the government to respond.
So the ball largely is in the court of the government.
Definitely so.
Mr. Tezatheri, you are the secretary of the mediation committee. Mr. Tezatheri, you are the secretary of the mediation committee. You played a key role, your organization, the Naga Tribes Council, apart from of course the other organizations, Naga, Ho and others. You played a key role in uniting the 6 groups under the banner of NNPG. Now, why do you think these 2 major groups were left behind? You must have definitely tried to bring NSCNK and NNC Adino also as part of the NNPG. What were the problem?
Yeah, we continue to appeal to all of them. And the Government of India interlocutor, Mr. R.N. Ravi, also have appealed to them.
Yeah.
But I don't know how sincerely Government of India has invited them.
Now, the Naga Tribes Council, when you were working to bring the 6 groups together, did you also try to bring at that time the NSCNK and the other groups?
Yeah, we did send feelers. We also have received positive indication. But despite the positive indication, the situation was not conducive for us to have direct talk.
Absolutely. As Mr. Ilunadang, you are saying, if there is bounty, yes, Mr. Theri, yeah, continue.
Yeah, government of India have declared NSC and KA as terrorist organization. And government of India policy is not to negotiate with terrorists. On one hand, you are hunting them. On the other hand, you are inviting them. I feel atmosphere should be created for them to come forward.
Now, Mr. Nadang, Mr. Ilu Nadang, do you think the government of India should immediately revise its policy? Do you think the government of India should first remove the ban on the NSCN-K and then talk about ceasefire first and then invite them for talks? Do you think that should be the step-by-step approach?
Definitely yes. Government of India must take the NSCN-K leadership into its confidence. The whole setup of NSCN-K are Nagas, though they are based in Myanmar. Now, they are also struggling, fighting for the same goal, for the same cause. Now, how can a government of India say that since they are from Myanmar, they don't need to have talks? For us, for Nagas, be it in Myanmar or Nagaland, Manipur, we have a common history.
Yeah.
We struggle together. And therefore, if the government of India is sincere enough, serious enough for settlement or for peace talk, they must immediately find out a mechanism to invite them, bring to the table, and have a peaceful negotiation.
Now, let me go to Mr. Kakairalu once again. Mr. Kakairalu, now have you said that you have not been approached so far. It is really a little bit difficult to believe this. I'm not questioning what you are saying. Why do you think the government of India has not approached you so far? Why have you not been approached so far? This is little difficult to understand.
Yeah, we have to go a little backwards to history,
Right.
to the Shillong Accord. The Shillong Accord was indeed signed by representatives of the federal government of Nagaland without using their designations. And after the accord was signed, it was brought back home, and thorough discussion was held by the Federal Emergency Meeting.
Yeah.
And there, the President Zashi Hure, the then President Zashi Hure, who had sent the delegation to Shillong, rejected the Shillong Accord.
Yeah.
He did not use the word rejected. He said, I cannot accept
Accept.
Clause 1 and Clause 3 of the Accord, which means unconditional acceptance of the Constitution of India,
Right.
and then settlement through this discussion. He said that because our Yezabo, our Constitution says only the Central Executive Committee of the NNC, which is comprised of 8 representatives from every region, tribe or region, and then with Piso then as the president of the council, it was referred back to them. But the Indian government never talked to the Central Executive Committee, and then the Shillong Accord came to an end just like that.
Yeah.
After that, India has been desperately trying to portray that the NNC is dead and the Naga National Council and the federal government of Nagaland has gone into non-existence. It is still there.
Now,
it has been continued from 1975 to the present.
Right. Now the obvious question. I am asking these questions repeatedly, Mr. Iralu, for the sake of clarity for the viewers actually, and for my own personal clarity. Now, do you think permanent peace is possible without NSCN-K and NNC Adino? Why is your group not part of the NNPG that joined the peace process in November last year? Mr. Iralu.
We have stuck to our assertion that the NNC Adino is the mandated government of the Naga people. After Piso's death, Adino was elected unanimously by the Naga Nation, by the whole general body meeting of the Naga National Council. And as a result of that, there has been disunity among the NNC. Some people have started this group and that group. That is the situation at the moment. But the NNC, original NNC, has stuck to their principles and their achievements without compromising anything so far.
Let me bring a different perspective before I once again go back to my panelist in Kohima. Mr. Prasenjit Biswas, Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, how hopeful are you about the return of permanent, lasting peace in the Naga areas in this kind of a scenario?
Right. So the dialogue process has to be extended by including all these excluded groups, notably NSCN-K and NSCN-IM have to share a common agenda, and if that is not possible, then NSCN-IM's talk and initiative will always be countered by NSCN-K. This basic dichotomy in the Naga movement needs to be addressed in the process of advancing the peace process, and to formulate a proper framework agreement, one has to really understand how territorially Naga outfits could be allowed a certain sense of autonomy, and through that various Naga groups can also be brought together in the same agenda, and there could be a reworking of the framework agreement. That is how the framework agreement must move.
Right.
If that doesn't happen, then the peace process will remain incomplete. Yeah.
But our panelists are saying that, you know, our panelists in Kohima are saying that the government ball lies in the court of the government. It is for the government to sort of extend the olive branch to groups like the NSCN-K because it has been declared a terrorist organization. But can the government fulfill all preconditions or wait indefinitely for all groups to join the peace process or the dialogue process, Dr. Prasenjit Biswas?
It's not a question of indefinite waiting, but it's a question of going on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
On a day-to-day basis, NSCN-K could be brought into a certain kind of understanding with the local Indian paramilitary troops, and it is possible to work out a suspension of kind of a warfare or kind of a suspension of operation agreement with NSCN-K. Now, once that kind of a suspension of operation agreement begins, the path toward a larger dialogue can be opened up, and the whole process can be completed in 6 months to 1 year time frame. It will not be very difficult to really bring NSCN-K in that way if Government of India follows it very schematically and systematically by bringing together other related insurgent outfits who are part of that United Liberation Front of West Southeast Asia. So government has to take a bigger initiative by expanding its own operation to the Myanmar region as well.
Government has to take a bigger initiative to expand the dialogue process. I'll come to you, Arnav Goswami. But before that, Mr. Thezateri, how long can the government wait? There has to be some time frame. The clock is ticking fast. You know, the negotiations with the NSCN-IM has reached an advanced stage. Now, the 6 other groups have also made considerable progress, the NNPG. Now, the NSCN-K is lagging behind in the entire process. They are not even part of the negotiations. And NNC Adino has said that government has not even approached it. Do you think it is feasible? How long can both the sides wait for the remaining groups to come together? Mr. Terry? Yeah, question is to you.
Okay. Yes, the wait can. Okay, the wait cannot be indefinite. It cannot be indefinite. The people are anxious. We want solution, and the engagement with the 7 NNPGs must continue. The progress have to continue.
Yeah.
At the same time, the NNC and NNCN-K, they should also fall in line. They should also join the negotiation and carry forward.
The wait cannot be indefinite. Mr. Ilunadang, do you agree with this perception? Mr. Thezateri is saying that the wait cannot be indefinite. That's what our other panelist from Nehru University has also said. Wait cannot be indefinite. There has to be some time frame. We have already wasted, I would say, enough time. Mr. Nadang.
Yes, yes, the wait cannot be indefinite. The peace process must go on, must continue, but we cannot wait for long. In any democratic setup, in any democratic society, we cannot expect a 100% agreement, consensus to certain particular issues.
Yes.
But it all depends on the negotiation between the negotiating parties. It all depends on the agreement, how they come to a conclusion.
How they come to a conclusive. Arnav, I mean, this is a very critical issue. The strategy of postponing peace that has boomeranged on many an occasion. The government just have a ceasefire and then don't invite the groups for talks. That is the strategy of postponing peace, as I call it.
Yeah, that's the thing, and that is the reason why NSCN has moved away from the ceasefire, because after NSCN-K has moved from the ceasefire, because from 2001 to 2015 there were no such talks. That was a particular reason they have left. And about NSCN-K coming to the peace process, you will see there is a space for NSCN-K to come, because when these 6 NNPGs have got together, they had formed a working group and they had taken a 5-point resolution, and the 5th point of the resolution was that they will welcome other groups to join them and be a part of the working group. So NSCN-K has a space where they can come. If the government provides the olive branch, they can come forward again, sign a ceasefire deal, be a part of this working group of the NNPGs and talk with the government. Also NSCN-IM has to be brought together, and yes, obviously there is space for them.
Now Mr. Sunil Nath, do you think a rebel group which is active, which is has the military hardware, which has the financial resources, do you think such a militant group would actually like to come forward and join a peace process when they have consolidated already? You can give the example of Ulfa Independent also. They are also keeping away from the peace process despite appeals by people and attempts by the government.
Well, I do think there is a scope for NSCN-K to come in, because NSCN-K has never said that it is averse to peace talks.
Yeah.
It has always welcomed peace talks and has said that it is ready, but things have to go on. You see, bringing them into ceasefire, then making them wait for 14 long years, that is not done. The government has to rectify its approach.
Government has to rectify the approach. Now, very quickly, once again, Mr. Kakairalu, now consultations is extremely important. Now, you know, the framework agreement was signed in August 2015. Now, do you think the NSCN-IM and the other groups also who are engaged in talks should discuss what is going on with the common people in Nagaland before an accord is signed? Mr. Iralu.
Yeah, coming to the common people of Nagaland, 80% of the people lives in the villages. These are the people who have carried on the struggle. These are the people who went to Pakistan and China for arms to carry on the fight. These are the people who went to jails and got beaten and tortured because of the struggle. And these people have been totally bypassed, and only the educated people and those who are for violence are being addressed. So as long as this discussion goes on, the masses will be left behind, and if a solution is imposed on the 80% of Nagas who have borne the brunt of the struggle, it could lead to very unpleasant consequences.
Now, what is you talk about acceptable solution, but what is an acceptable solution according to you, your personal view, Mr. Iralu?
An acceptable solution will be a phased withdrawal of the Indian government and the Burmese government from our ancient lands, and then recognition of our declared independence by the UN and by our immediate neighbors. We have followed all the legal political procedures in hoisting our flag on 14 August before India and Burma. We informed the UN if in recognition of all these political legal requirements in place, the Indian government and the bigger world at large will recognize these. Then after that, we can go into any kind of negotiations for armed strategies, common armed strategies, economic development. We are ready for anything. We cannot live in isolation as a small, tiny little Nagaland in the northeastern part of India. Northeastern part, not.
Now,
yes.
I will come to Mr. David Sangtam, but before that, Mr. Teza Theri, in the last 21 years of the negotiations, lot of ground have been covered, isn't it? Obviously, that is why the government of India says that accord is at an advanced stage. Now, what Mr. Kakairalu is saying is something which we have heard before. It is not something which he has said only today on this channel. His stand, and I think the government and the Naga groups who are engaged in talks have moved farther beyond that, isn't it?
Yeah, our right, our political rights, government of India have to recognize. But the talk have to be without precondition. And those and groups should come forward and have negotiation. And whatever they want to say, they should say on the negotiation table. Then only solution can be brought about. We are also discussing about the contemporary situation.
Yes.
Day-to-day engagement.
Yes. That
and
is
the talk have to be based on the realities of today.
Absolutely. That is a very important point. Talks have to be based on present day realities, which is a very significant point made by Mr. Teza Theri. We have covered a lot of ground in the last 2 decades of negotiations, and the Naga leaders who are negotiating are very, very veteran and seasoned negotiators. And I'm sure a lot of grounds have been covered between this dialogue between the Naga rebel leaders and the Government of India representatives. Mr. Ilunadang, Mr. Teza Theri is talking about ground realities, present day realities, contemporary situation, which is very important to keep this in mind, isn't it? We cannot only talk about history.
Yes, it's very true. Whatever is possible with the current political negotiations,
Yes.
Government of India must be serious enough, must be sincere enough to come clean, or otherwise, even the negotiating parties, Naga political leaders, those who are on the negotiating table, they must come clean to the public and end this settlement. The people are frustrated with this long years of negotiations, and it is beyond beyond
important point, very important
the limit.
point. Hold on.
People are really, the level of frustration is quite high now.
Level of frustration is high. Mr. David Sangtam, I'll come back to that original question which I had tried to ask you earlier, but there were some technical issues. Now, Mr. David Sangtam, you know, is it an indication of things to follow in the coming days? Now, we are all talking about, we are basically talking about that attack in Mon. Is it an indication of things to follow in the coming days?
As far as I feel, regarding the latest killings which has taken place in our ANP jurisdiction, we have appealed to the concerned leaders, groups also, that kindly maintain peace.
Yeah.
And then ANP have already made a resolution in the year 2007, 18 December, as I've mentioned earlier, that there should be no killing as such in our area. So I feel in the long run too, ANPO, it is known to hold the Naga general public and even to the mainland India also, that the ANPO is asking for a separate statehood. So I feel we don't go against anybody. We ANPO appeal to all the leaders, civil societies, or whichever groups it may be, that they should support our cause, because ours is a genuine problem which we have already put in paper to the government of India in the representation of a memorandum that we would like to have a separate statehood demand. So personally I feel that if government of India can also look into our demand, maybe in the long run it also can bring some peace
Yeah.
in our area, hopefully.
So, Mr. Terry, this is a new dimension, isn't it? The ENPO demanding a separate state for Eastern Nagaland districts. That is again a new dimension. I think, do you think that should also be part of the ongoing peace dialogue process, or do you consider it as a separate issue? What are your personal assessment?
I feel these two issues cannot go together.
Yeah.
This is not a part of the negotiation agenda. The
Yeah.
present negotiation is on our political rights, our aspiration. As a Nagas, as a people, as a whole, we are not talking about this state and that state. The state issues can be taken up with the government of India, I believe.
So, these are two separate issues. Mr. Elunadang, these are two separate issues. Mr. David Sangtam also talked about why the government of India should accept the demand for a separate state, Eastern Nagaland districts. Mr. Nadang?
Yes, as my colleague has stated, for the people of Eastern Nagaland, they may have some particular reasons for raising their issue, but when it comes to Naga political issue, I think these two issues cannot be clubbed together.
Two issues.
It has to be dealt with in a different, the nature of dealing with the issue should be different.
No, Mr. Sunil Nath, as we have named Naga peace the bumpy road ahead. It's really going to be a bumpy road ahead. It seems it's not going to be that easy, even after a lot of grounds have been covered in the very, very exhaustive negotiations in the past 20 years or more. Still, what are some of the difficulties that may come? What is your assessment, Mr. Sunil Nath?
Well, the tragic part I feel is that there are so many features within the Naga nation itself and different political groups, like the senior leader Kaka Iralu has pointed out. They still believe that theirs is the only organization which should rightfully represent the Nagas. But that is not a present scenario. That is not, like my other friend pointed out, we have to take the contemporary reality into account.
Contemporary reality into account. That's what you were saying.
Yes.
So, you have to take
And,
into account.
and my friends from Nagaland, all of them, you know, you have to sort out the features that are so visible to us from outside Nagaland amongst your nation. You have to do that, because unless you are able to do that, unless the Naga people become united as a bloc, you won't be able to extract much from government of India. That's my feeling.
Absolutely. I'll have to go for a break, but before that, very quickly, Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, could there be repercussions on the content of the agreement later? As we were discussing, you know, not many people, the common Naga people are not aware of the content of even the framework agreement. They don't know what will be the shape of the agreement as and when it comes. Now, there could be repercussions later, isn't it, on this, once the accord is signed?
Right, but common masses have been given some idea about the accord, which is that the state of Nagaland will have greater autonomy, a little more than Article 371, something in the line of Article 370, as you know, which the people are discussing, and it's available in public domain, that the Naga people will control their own natural resources, that they will be able to establish their proper tenureship over their land, and will be able to set up industries the way that they want to. Even a kind of currency could be introduced in the state of Nagaland. Now, these kind of ideas are very revolutionary in the sense that it allows a larger federal understanding of the very notion of identity, as well as the very sense of belonging to a particular state, the state of Nagaland. So that's what is very encouraging from the people's point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll go into a short break, but don't go away. We'll be right back into this very engaging discussion on the Naga peace issue. Welcome back. I'll go straight to Kohima again to Mr. Teza Theri. Mr. Teza Theri, you know, from now on, from this stage onwards, from this time onwards, would you like to appeal to the Government of India as well as the underground groups, Naga national groups who are engaged in the peace process to work on a definite time frame? Because even now, if things are not put on track, if there is no time limit set, things may continue forever and new developments could take place along the way.
That's very true. It cannot be indefinite, and the government of India should give sincere attempt to bring the other two groups together. But at the same time, the negotiation, the process must go on, and it cannot be indefinite. No matter how many groups are talking with the government of India, they are talking about Nagas. They are talking for the Nagas. So definitely whatever solution they will bring, it will be for everyone.
Now, Mr. Nadang, is there a necessity now? Is there a necessity now for the Government of India as well as the negotiating groups to give the common people of Nagaland or the Naga areas, the common Nagas, some idea as to what may be? Yes, we understand that the negotiators cannot come and disclose everything in the public domain, but still, do you think that they should give some idea about what may be the shape of the agreement?
Yes, the negotiating parties must come back to the people, because the people cannot be kept in dark. We understand that the content of the negotiation, the content of the agreement may be premature to show it to the public.
Yes, yes.
But the level of consultation, the level of information to the public has to take place. The people cannot be kept in dark for long.
Arnav, is that a good idea?
Yeah.
You cannot obviously, as analysts, as journalists, as commentators, we are not expecting the government or the negotiating groups to come and lay bare what is there in the agreement, the fine print. But as Mr. Nadang has said, the information flow with the people, the consultations must be there.
Yeah, of course, because if you see the history of accords in northeastern India, apart from the Mizo Accord and to some extent the BTC Accord, rest of the accords have not been able to satisfy the aspirations of the people. And the main reason being that the accord, everything that's in the accords has not been transparent, the people do not know. And again, if they sign an accord where the people's confidence is not being taken, again you can see another failed accord. So the people have to know what's in the accord.
Sunil Nath, do you agree?
Yes, I do agree. And yes, and though there is a need for secrecy, then I think transparency ultimately helps. If there has to be a debate, let the debate take place now. Yes.
Mr. Terry, Mr. Sunil Nath, the former publicity secretary of the United Liberation Front of Assam, now a commentator, Mr. Sunil Nath is saying that if there is a debate, let the debate happen now, not after signing the accord. Yes, again I am saying we are not expecting the government or the NSCNIM or the other groups to come and lay bare everything before the people, but at least some information must be there, some debate must take place. Do you agree?
I fully agree. They are mandated to negotiate, no doubt. But they have to take people on board.
Yes.
they have to share the rough idea, the broad idea
Yes.
of what is negotiating on the round table. And then they should also take the consent of the people. We are not asking that the detailed competence points should be
Correct.
brought to the public domain at the moment. But they should not keep people in dark.
Yes. After all,
To a great extent, yeah. To a great extent,
yes, carry on.
yeah, as far as the NPG is concerned, they have shared the rough idea of what is being negotiated on the table. And people are also not adverse to what so far they have been sharing with the public in public domain. So we are hoping that negotiation is in the right direction.
True. Now, let me ask a different perspective to Mr. David Sangtam once again. Mr. David Sangtam, you know, what impact is it going to have on the accord? Suppose by the time the accord is signed, these two groups, NSCN-K and the NNC-Adino, suppose they continue to remain outside the peace process and the accord is signed. What kind of an impact it is going to have on the accord? David Sangtam.
As far as the outcome of this non-participation from our two brother groups are concerned, I have not much of the idea.
Yeah.
But this is appeal on behalf of the Eastern Naga people in particular,
Yeah.
and in general for the whole Nagas, if they can also come forward and then take a step to make sure that there is a peace prevalent in the whole of the Nagaland state, and especially in the eastern part, we appeal them to restrain from killing in whatever manner it is, because our people have suffered long enough as far as Naga movement is concerned.
Yeah.
So I make a humble appeal to whichever faction is there that they should try to maintain peace in our jurisdiction.
Now, Mr. Sangtam, you know, do you think the Naga people are worried today about the content of what the accord is going to be? About the content of the impending accord? Do you think they are worried, people? Mr. Sangtam.
Of course, most of the Nagas may feel it that way. That is generally felt by all the people in Nagaland state. But the outcome of the peace, whatever it may be, ENP has also on various occasions appealed and even given a press statement openly that any solution that is to be brought about out of this negotiation that is going on, we would like that the solution should be honorable, acceptable, and inclusive of all the concerned stakeholders.
True.
So
but
I humbly appeal, in fact, that whichever factions or groups who are also negotiating with the government of India, that it is good if they can take every stakeholder on board so as to bring that solution
yes.
is
No doubt.
more or less like final and is acceptable by all. Otherwise, personally, I feel maybe if some of the teams are left out, maybe we have a little bit of apprehension, which I hope maybe in the near future some solution may come, hopefully.
True. But what is an acceptable solution? I have to ask you this question because you use the word acceptable. What is an acceptable solution in your view?
In fact, acceptable solution in the sense, whatever the solution it may be,
Yeah.
whether it is big or small, black or white, if anybody or any group also feels that they are satisfied with the solution, then it should be an acceptable solution. Otherwise, if someone is left, hurt, not satisfied, then we never know. Maybe in the long run, things may go out of hand also. That's personally what I feel.
True. Now, Mr. Nadang, you know, your organization, the Naga Hoho, or for that matter, Mr. Tseza Theri's organization, the Naga Tribes Council, the church leaders, everybody tried to bring all the groups into a common platform, but they did not succeed. You know, Now, why do you think that an appeal from the government of India will change all that? Why do you think that if the government of India invites them, the NSCN-K and the NNC Adino will come and join the rest of the group and then they will live happily ever after? Why do you think so? Because you tried and failed.
Yes. See, as I have mentioned earlier, as long as the bounty is announced on the NSNK leadership, there is no way to move forward. Now, civil society leaders, from the mothers, from the Hoho, from the students, in our own approaches, we have been appealing to them to come back to a negotiating table. But they are not being able to move out. Why? Because of this bounty announced on them. Can't the government of India think about another approach? Why can't they denounce or otherwise remove this bounty and then invite them, or otherwise allow the civil society organizations to once again approach
I will
group,
ask,
or otherwise the state government?
Correct. Now,
can't we use them another? Can't they use another approach?
I will come to you, Sunil Nath. But Mr. Tezatheri, do you think the government can give a temporary safe passage to designated NSCN-K leaders to come out of hiding and prepare the ground for resumption of the ceasefire as step one? Do you think they should do that? Do you think they can do that?
Definitely, it is the government of India who should initiate. And they should also relax the condition that is being imposed on them. Sincere approach to bring them on board should go one side. On the other side, the present negotiations should also continue without any hindrance.
Absolutely. Now, Mr.
At the same time, no matter how many groups are engaged, no matter how many groups are engaged, they are engaged for the entire Nagas. So the solution is for everyone. It is not for this group or that group. So that solution should be allowed to happen.
That's a very important point which Tezatheri is making. Mr. Sunil Nath, there was a time when top alpha leaders were actually given safe passage. They were still not denounced their demands. They were still an underground group. When they first came out, there was some arrangement, isn't it? When they came out and met the Prime Minister even.
Well, at that point, at the first phase, at
90s.
least, during the first phase, only those leaders and cadres who were captured, who were already incarcerated, they were taken out.
And were already in jail at that time.
Yes, they were already captured.
But there were no safe passages as such.
No safe passages as such. There might have been some secret understanding. I am not aware of that. I was in the second rank.
Yeah.
But then again,
but in this context, suppose coming to the present context, fine. The government of India has declared the NSCN-K as a terrorist organization. They have announced a bounty on the head of some of the top leaders of the NSCN-K. But do you think for the sake of lasting peace, for the sake of broad-based peace in Nagaland, at least as a step one, they can give a safe passage to allow a few leaders to come out, have talks, and maybe try and bring the truce back?
In fact, I would like to propose a step further.
Yeah.
The government of India, since it is already in advanced stages of peace talks with the Naga nation, so government of India can adopt a very liberal attitude and say unilaterally declare a limited period as ceasefire, within which NSCN-K has to consider and respond.
Limited ceasefire and put the ball on the court of the NSCN-K. Now, Arnav, is this a good idea? Do you think the NSCN-K and the other groups also has a responsibility, because they say that they are working for the overall interest of the Naga people, and Naga people today wants peace. Naga people today wants progress and development. They cannot keep fighting forever. They cannot have their children left behind when the rest of the country and the world is progressing. Don't you think the NSCNK also has a responsibility? They also have to pull back for the sake of development and progress of the Naga people and the Naga society. What do you think?
Of course, NSCNK has more responsibility because they are the one who says they are fighting for the people. And if they carry out their terror attacks, the government of India will continue take them as a they'll continue taking them as a terrorist organization. So the ball is more in the court of the NSCNK.
So now that means the resumption of the truce that was abrogated in 2015, that is of utmost first step that is necessary.
Yes, NSCNK has to declare that they will not attack, that they are ready for talks. The first thing have to come from NSCNK, and I think some civil society.
But many would argue that the first step has to be done by the government.
I think it's more on the part of the NSCNK who has to come forward first, because they are the one who have been killing the security force personnel and the government.
Mr. Terry, your views. Who should relent first? Who should call the ceasefire first?
To me, it is the government of India who should relax the imposition that is being put on the NSCNK and create a conducive atmosphere for them to come forward. And I believe they will come forward for the sake of the people.
Okay, I am running short of time. Mr. Nadang, what do you think?
See, the government of India has failed its approach in the past, and now the situation has led this far. Why can't the government give another opportunity, adopt a new policy approach, and invite them? And definitely NSCNK being the Naga people's group, definitely they will listen to the people and come forward. Okay. And that's what we hope for, and that's what we have been appealing for.
We'll have to.
It is up to the government of India whether to accept or not.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Nadang, we'll have to wait and watch. Once again, I'm running short of time. I would like to go to Mr. Kakairalu, and only for the sake of clarity, only for the sake of clarity, I am asking you this question once again, Mr. Kakairalu, don't get offended. Is the NNC Adino willing to talk peace with the government of India?
I'm sure my colleagues will be willing to talk with the government of India, but we have talked enough in another sense. The 1964 ceasefire and peace talks ended in deadlock because India went on insisted, despite the facts of history, that Nagas are Indians and Nagaland is a part of India.
Yeah.
So if the Indian government wants to talk again on those issues, I have a question whether we will go for it, because it has been thoroughly discussed in the 64 ceasefire, and there's nothing more that India doesn't know. The issue is an issue of invasion of a country that has declared its independence.
That's a strong word.
And then, without addressing the issue, if we go on talking about peace, I don't think it will come about.
But Mr. Ralu, negotiations means compromise. Negotiation means give and take, isn't it?
Yes, we can go for give and takes, but compromise on the basic historical issues, the political facts as it stands, there can be no compromise on the Nagas for that. For that reason alone, we have withstood the overwhelming Indian invasion for the past 70 years, intermittently with the war going on.
Okay, your last words, so I'm running short of time. Mr. Teza Terry, what do you want to say at the end?
Yes, we have our history, we have our rights. At the same time, we have to also listen to the cry of the people. The people want a solution. And government of India cannot say that you have no right. Our right have to be recognized. Our right to determine our own future.
Yeah.
That is our right. Nobody can subjugate
Yes, yes, absolutely right. Nobody can subjugate. Your last words, Mr. Nadang, very briefly.
Yes. Armed conflict or violence cannot bring solution. Therefore, so also Nagas wants solution in a very peaceful manner
Yeah,
through people-to-people dialogue.
yes,
I would like to appeal to all the groups
yeah,
and the government of India to be sincere, to be serious in the approach.
be sincere
bring
and
about a
serious.
permanent
Be
solution to the
sincere
Naga
and
people.
serious. Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, what about symbolic concessions like a flag, the option to write Naga alongside Indians in the passport? Do you think that will be well received? Apart from, of course, the core issues, apart from, of course, the main concessions, do you think symbolism also is important? Very quickly.
That is quite debated at the larger mainstream, because if the country of India has to have many different flags, like Karnataka has announced a new flag, similarly Jharkhand also has a certain kind of flag, and in the Constituent Assembly debates, if you remember, Jayachandra Singh was mooting this idea of a multicolored national flag instead of a tricolored national flag. All these are really very meaningful at this moment to look at,
Yeah.
and therefore it is possible to have a flag for NSC and IM, and then by extension a flag for NSC and K, and then to arrive at a common flag for the many Naga tribes, which are numbering almost 22, and if we take the subgroups into account, it goes up to 60. So it will allow a broad based understanding of the Naganess by organizing themselves together under one Naga flag. That will be a great help for nation building as far as the Naga autonomy and inclusion of Nagaland in India is concerned.
We'll have to wait and watch as to how things unfold. Sunil, 10 seconds, your last concluding remarks.
Well, see, peace is such a cherished prize for which we will have to be ready to face many bumps if need be. I wish all the best to the people of Nagaland, and despite the bumps, I am sure peace will prevail.
Absolutely, very optimistic there. Arnav.
Well, I'll say that the peace talks has to be transparent. The people, the citizens of Nagaland have to be taken into confidence as what's there in the accord. NSC and K have to come forward for talks, join the NNPGs in the working group.
Absolutely. This has been a very engaging debate, and basically what has come out of this is that the government of India must come up, try hard to bring the two other important groups, the NSCNK and the NNC Adino, also to the negotiating table, bring them as part of the broad-based peace process. Yes, we know that the Naga peace, the road to Naga peace is still very bumpy, but hope has to remain. We want that a transparency should prevail and that there should be a time-bound solution. We have faced enough. The Naga society needs to progress and develop. This particular Naga issue cannot hold progress, peace, development, everything hostage, and solution therefore is must, and it must come about in a transparent and time-bound manner. On that note, I thank all my panelists for being present in this discussion today, and with this I bring this edition of Northeast Tonight to an end. Good night and goodbye.